It's been 7 weeks since my jaw surgery, and the recovery has been challenging. I didn't know going into the procedure whether it was going to be on just my top jaw or both my top and bottom. Thankfully, it wound up just being the top, which has made it a lot less complicated than it could have been. However, it was still a hassle. So what they did is they relocated my top jaw forward, making a substantial improvement to my bite, and reorganizing my whole sort of facial structure just a little bit. What you see here today is still with a little bit of swelling present in my cheeks and around here. So it's still gonna settle in slightly, but overall, I'm still pretty recognizable from my old face, which is a relief. I won't go into too much detail on the recovery because I honestly don't want to gross anyone out, and it was pretty gross. Look up Le Fort 1 upper jaw surgery if you want to learn more, and you can go into the depths of what that recovery looks like. I had the whole gamut when it comes to symptoms, but by far the worst for me was the nosebleeds, which were brutal. Again, not going to go into too much detail. Look it up if you're curious. Now, while it varies, my surgeon's recommendation for returning to work when most people would be ready to work again was 10 days post-surgery. For me, I was in the emergency room on day 9 with uncontrollable nosebleeds. Basically, my body just did not want to fully fix itself up, and it especially did not believe in following any of the quote-unquote normal timelines. At this point, I have made it through the liquid-only diet for the first few days, which was a blast, and then the soft food diet for around 5 weeks. I am finally eating mostly normal food with a few exceptions. As I said, I'm still a little bit swollen and my sinuses still have some stuff in them, which is kind of gross. And by far the most annoying part of the recovery, now that the nosebleeds are gone at least, is that I'm still numb. So if you've ever had local anesthesia before, like if you've gotten a cavity filled at your dentist and they give you that shot to numb part of your mouth, it's a lot like that. Except in this case, it's resulting from a disruption of this particular nerve, which causes numbness from my top teeth and my upper lip all the way up to the bottom of my eyes. And I've been living like that for 7 whole weeks now. It's terrible. Along with it, I've obviously had some pain. There's been a lot of brain fog, a bit of depression, silly things like constantly spilling water on myself when I drink, or having toothpaste running down my chin as I brush thanks to having a numb upper lip. It's been a journey. And so that brings me to the question that friends and family out there love to ask next, which is whether this was worth it since the recovery has been pretty brutal. And despite all that difficulty, yes, absolutely yes. First of all, I think my teeth look great. It's better than they've ever looked before, and it's only going to get a little better from here. I'm going to be back in Invisalign soon to sort of finish out final movements, but my bite is finally where it should be for the first time in my life. Second of all, by bringing this part of my face where my nose is further forward, it actually opened up my airway, which has made a noticeable impact on my breathing. It's slightly easier to breathe through my nose than it was before. I took note of it before the surgery and kind of compared it, and it's easily easier to notice that it's easier to breathe. That sentence made no sense, but whatever. As a result of having easier breathing, my sleep has improved tremendously. If you go back in my video archive, you'll see a lot of videos where I'm wearing this particular watch. This is the Garmin Fenix 7, and I love it. I wore it for multiple years. However, I stopped wearing it because of sleep. I've always been a good sleeper. I can fall asleep easily and then sleep straight through for 8 hours without much of an issue. However, more often than not, no matter how much sleep I got, I never really felt well rested. This in particular got worse as I've aged. Now, I stopped wearing my watch in early 2025 because the sleep data it presented was just messing with me mentally. When you do everything you can to get good sleep, and I mean everything, eye mask, earplugs, just everything you could possibly think of, and it still says that you've slept horribly, eventually you just don't want to wear it anymore. No matter how many great features it has, you just want to put it aside and not look at it. The stress of anticipating a bad sleep score makes your sleep even worse, and then it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's just a spiral. So I haven't been wearing that for a year now. And then post-surgery, I noticed that even though my sleep was horrible during recovery, it was short and often interrupted with things like nosebleeds, but still I felt way more refreshed. That continued to the point where I was then sleeping longer and on a much more regular schedule like I was pre-surgery. And so eventually I decided to put the watch on again, curious if there was an objective improvement that would match my subjective feelings. And in fact, there was. This is a chart of a typical month of sleep when I was wearing my watch regularly before. Average score of 69 and lucky to get over 75 on Garmin's 100-point scale. Now, this is my most recent month of sleep. Ignoring these two outliers, which were just misreads that sort of cut my night's sleep in half, every single night is over 75 points, and the average is 81. One of the coolest things is actually this number right here. My average respiration rate has been pretty consistently around 16 breaths per minute post-surgery. Previously, it was always consistently 14. Now, obviously, you can't just make yourself breathe more while you're sleeping because you're totally not in control of that. But I guess by opening up that airway, it allowed my body to take more breaths without exerting more energy, which has been a really powerful thing to experience. So now that most of my recovery is behind me in the rearview mirror, and now that I've realized that this numbness that I'm experiencing that is so horrible could last for 6, 12, or even 18 months if I am truly unlucky, and I'm not making that up, there's really no more time to wait. Even though I am still not feeling 100%, the tech around here just ain't gonna review itself. So tomorrow, my first review back goes live, giving you the full details on the new Linus Tech Tips True Spec cables that I made a short on previously. Now, beyond that, I've got a whole backlog of different products around here that are very exciting that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. We've got the new sizes of the Newfie Air V3, both the smaller version and the bigger version that are gonna be a review that you're not gonna wanna miss. The Keychron K3 Ultra is also in the house, which is very exciting. I've got some more Anchor charging gear that I'm gonna be reviewing. There's some mice, and there's just a whole lot more. I'm really excited to be back. I'll be even more excited when I can actually feel my face again, whenever that may be. But anyway, thank you guys all for the really kind comments on my last video from when surgery actually occurred. And now that we can actually see beyond the surgery, it is finally time for me to confidently say, I'll see you in the next one.